"I consider my greatest accomplishment to be my lifelong celibacy," said Newton. Or did he? The earliest source of this on Reddit is a post submitted 15 years ago. The user linked this to a WordPress site, which is now set to private. In an archived copy of that WordPress page before it was privatized, it does make that claim but provides no sources for anything it says. Another post was submitted 12 years ago. They linked this post to Hergenhahn's An Introduction to the History of Psychology. On page 112, we find the following sentence. It is interesting to note that with all his accomplishments, Newton cited his lifelong celibacy as his greatest achievement. We have a reference. Perfect. Let us check where the Robinson reference leads us. It is a series of recorded lectures published possibly as CDs back in the day. Fortunately, lecture 27 is available through YouTube. After listening through the 30-minute lecture, we realized that there was no sentence about Newton claiming celibacy as his greatest achievement. In fact, Newton being a celibate was not mentioned at all in the lecture. I searched online and found a quote floating around like a lost balloon. No one knows who said it first, just that it is out there. There are three major sources of evidence that show us Newton being celibate and a virgin. First, he revealed to the physician Richard Mead that he was a virgin. This is mentioned in the book Priest of Nature, The Religious Worlds of Isaac Newton. French writer Voltaire, who was in London at the time of Newton's death, claimed to have spoken to Newton's doctor and surgeon, who said he died a virgin. Second, which is also mentioned in the same book, his role as a college don at Trinity College of Cambridge, where he made celibacy a requirement. Elizabeth Abbott's History of Celibacy also detailed Newton's intimate relationship with the mathematician Fatio de Duillier. Her argument is that Newton became celibate as a result of the breakdown of their relationship. It is worth noting that Abbott does not cite any references to this, but her argument is probably based on Newton's biographies by Richard Westfall and Michael White, who supported this story. Duillier and Newton definitely engaged in an active exchange of letters, but there is no credible evidence of the two of them being lovers. The only claim to this is based on the misrepresentation of a single letter. A vague reference to a relationship is a great starting point for a research project, but it is not good evidence for reinterpreting interactions between two individuals. Think back to our evidence of Newton being a virgin and celibate. For these, we have at least the direct textual evidence, revelation to Richard Mead, as well as the contextual evidence associated with the role of college dons. The more interesting point about Newton and celibacy is his writings about celibacy. In a posthumously published work titled Observations upon the Prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse of St. John, he devoted 2 chapters to examining the history of celibacy. Regardless of the accuracy of Newton's historical theological claims, the 2 chapters were scathing attacks on the celibacy practiced by monks. Wait a second, is not this weird? A celibate criticizing celibacy? Well, it turns out that Newton built up a neat criticism of celibacy based on his early work on imagination and on his personal experiences. He argued that if you do nothing all day, your imagination will not be occupied and it will divert to lustful desires. Therefore, the lack of exercising your imagination leads to temptations and sinful behavior. According to Newton, this was exactly the error of the monks, and so they were bound to fail celibacy or feel lustful all day. By contrast, if you occupy yourself and exercise your imagination, then carnal temptations will have a harder time occupying your mind. Therefore, for Newton, engaging in experimental philosophy and research was his way to cope with celibacy. In addition, his criticism of celibacy did not seek to eradicate it. Instead, he sought to demonstrate how to do it properly, like a good Christian. Newton never married, and there is no record of him ever having a romantic relationship. In brief, Newton did indeed claim that virginity rocks, but he only considered it part of his life rather than his biggest achievement.